One of the things about slow films by nature and long films, but in fact, it doesn't really make any difference because a film can be 80 minutes or something like Fred Kellerman's Fate, or it can be 8 hours like Lav Diaz's Melancholia. Each film creates its own space, as it were, so it lasts as long as it lasts, and that's its kind of universe. Each one creates its own terms, the terms you watch it under, which is very different from the sort of films you would see at the multiplex.
Within this broader framework of this idea of slow cinema, I think that if that term is useful, it's also useful as a conception of spectatorship and the way that the audience relates to work. And I think that slowness is something that Jonathan Romney talked about with the idea of slow criticism. I think there's also slow cinema is also a different mode of exhibition where cinemas can also help and provide time to watch work, to kind of return to work, to watch multiple works by different filmmakers, by different groups of filmmakers or different cultures, to kind of give that time to kind of really engage with those works and see how they interrelate.
And one of the important things about these films is seeing them in a cinema and actually coming in, turning off your mobile, forgetting what time it is, not really knowing when a film is going to end.
I think the slowness probably is a way of allowing a certain way of looking and being in the cinema, kind of trying to take you into a world, and like with Lav's films you really get immersed in that world because you're in there for hours. I mean, my films are much shorter than Lav's, but in the same way I'm still trying to bring about a certain kind of immersion which is different to a sort of maybe a fast plot-based immersion, which is one that I think is easier to forget afterwards. And is less about engagement with an audience's imagination. I feel like when you slow things down, there's more of an invitation to bring in the audience's own mind.
But there is something very particular about the state of mind you get into. It's a different state of perception that you get into when you're watching a film by Bela Tarr, say, or Fred Kellerman, or Lav Diaz.
This weekend my films are being shown alongside 3 filmmakers who I really admire, so it was really great for me.
It's been really great that this weekend we've been able to pair Lav's films, almost to create these kind of double bills, and especially yesterday with Melancholia and Slow Action. It felt like the perfect double bill, and great to be able to that those works are not quantified on the amount of slots that they take, but they're just individual works. One might be 40 minutes long, one might be 8 hours long, but they kind of have kind of parallels. So it's a great experience for me as well to watch 2 films that I know separately and individually, but to kind of watch those together, and then within these other frameworks of kind of especially Fred Kellerman's trilogy that I'd only seen kind of in parts. I think it's in I think it's just great. There's opportunities for encountering works and structures to encounter work, and to say it's okay that these films are long, but that's not unusual. To create a space where difference can be kind of celebrated. It's one of the things that I love, going into a film and not quite knowing how it's going to unfold or what's going to happen. But that's because I've had people who can kind of reassure me that the film will create its own space and its own time.
What's interesting about an event like this dedicated to a particular kind of cinema, especially given that there are films here up to 8 hours, there may even be longer ones as far as I know, but it's interesting that everyone has seen the first 6 hours of this film. Everyone's outside finishing their dinner. There's a kind of community atmosphere that people are going through this experience together and talking about it, and I think clearly these films are being made to be lived through.
If there's any place or any structure or cinema that could kind of present Lav's work, that kind of the space itself and the organisation of the space kind of related directly to different ideas of group practice, of duration, of time, of the time for culture, the time for political engagement, this felt like the best place to do that.
Certainly there's something about this extraordinary venue which I think really is kind of incredibly well tuned to creating a community. Yeah, it's a very interesting experience, and I think anyone who's watched 8 hours of a Lav Diaz film together, they will have something in common. He talks about his faithful viewers as being warriors, so we're all warriors together.